Hi there, I'm Dan, and this is Travels with Daniel. Hope you're doing good today. So, today I want to talk about abuse viewed through the lens that we live in. What do I mean there? Well, I'm Irish and I'm Catholic, so I'm Irish Catholic. I make a big point of letting people know that. That's how I was raised. The church played a very important role in my early years. Uh, as I've said, I'd always loved God, but the church is different than God. There's a lot of rules that come with the church. There's Catholic guilt. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that, but that's the guilt that a lot of Catholics feel just in general in life, that we're not worthy, we're separated from God, that we're constantly in a sinful state. That lens was viewed by me very seriously. I took everything with the church very seriously. Now, I did leave the church when I was 16, but at the time of my abuse, I was 12. Uh, I had a lot of questions about my worthiness that after the abuse, and a lot of that stemmed from the teachings that I had received. For example, uh, my abuser was male, and I was male, so I worried that this made me a homosexual. I was having a form of sex before I was married, and of course, I couldn't be married to a male in the Catholic Church, so I was having extramarital sex. It changed how I viewed myself. Uh, One of the effects that I believe really did happen because of that is I became hypersexualized, and by the time I was 13 or 14, I was fooling around with girls. And my mindset was pretty much, well, I'm already going to hell, so might as well keep on doing it. The church altered my view of me even more because of the abuse. Made it difficult for me to to understand where I fit in, and the church view, which was very important to me, made it even more difficult. Now, some people may not have the Catholic Church; they may be Muslim, or they may be Baptist, or they may have no religion at all. There may be a cultural aspect as the lens through which they view their life. But here's one way that this really, really, really affected me. So my godfather was a very important man to me, and I loved him very, very much. Now, in the Catholic Church, godfather is the person who it stands up. Your godfather and godmother stand up for you when you're baptized, and you're baptized shortly after your birth. Then along comes confirmation. That's, you have your baptism, then you have your first confession, your first Holy Communion, and then confirmation. And confirmation is when the church teaches you're conferred with the Holy Spirit. So everybody chooses a sponsor, and that sponsor will stand up in front of the church and recommend you as being ready to receive the Holy Spirit. You're a person in good standing in the church. You're a good Catholic. I wanted my godfather to be my sponsor because I looked up to him, and I thought he was a good man, a great man. I still do think he was a great man. He was who I wanted to recommend me before the church. But then I was abused, and I had a lot of feelings about myself and questions, and a lot of them centered around, who was I as a Catholic? That, I had participated in these things. I was not a member in good standing. I was not a good Catholic. I was possibly homosexual. I was having sex outside of marriage, extramarital sex, I guess would be a better phrase. But I didn't tell anybody what was going on, and I certainly didn't tell my godfather. And one of the problems that arose and it wasn't until years later that I was finally able to realize this, because as I started to uncover and pull at the strings in my life, I started to have this like snippet of memory that would come out, just tiny little flashes, and I couldn't place it. I couldn't figure out what it was, but it was something trying to boil to the surface. And I remember I was speaking to one of my friends who had been a really, really good counselor for me. And I was telling her, I said, there's something there. I don't know what it is. And she said to me, just relax, it'll come, but don't push it. So I took her advice and relaxed. And the more I relaxed, the more the snippets started to come until finally I could see myself standing at the rail of the church on the day of my confirmation, and this great sense of guilt and shame overwhelming me because I knew that I wasn't a good Catholic. I knew that I wasn't in good standing with the church. I knew that, I was this terrible, terrible sinner. And here I was having my godfather, who was the most honorable man I had ever known, and who I placed so much trust, and so many other people placed so much trust into. And he was standing before the church and attesting to what a good Catholic I was. And when I started to recall that memory, I realized that 12-year-old me felt that I had made my godfather a liar before the congregation, before the entirety of the Catholic Church, before God. Because he was so proud and so happy. And I can remember him standing there with his arm around my shoulder after confirmation and congratulating me. That feeling that I had, that I had made him a liar, the disappointment, guilt, and shame again, that I had made him a liar, altered my relationship with him for the rest of his life. Now, he didn't treat me any different. He didn't even know about the abuse. He still loved me. He was still good to me. But how I viewed my relationship with him, always in the back of my mind, was this feeling that I'd let him down. Not let him down because of the abuse, but let him down because I didn't tell him about it. Therefore, he wasn't able, in full knowledge, to attest to my character. This is actually the first time I can get through this story without choking up. Just last week, I was telling it to a very, very dear friend, and it just choked me up. He's been gone 8 years now. He never knew. I couldn't talk to him about it when I was ready to talk about it because he was gone. And I couldn't talk to my godmother about it because she's older now and not doing so well. But when I'd realized it last year, I called their daughter, my cousin, who I'm very close with, and I told her, I said, I, you know, feel bad that I never had the opportunity to tell him how bad I felt about making him a liar in church. Now, I understand now I didn't make him a liar. I couldn't tell anybody that, but back then, that's how I felt. And she told me that he never would have been disappointed, that he would have loved me regardless. And probably had I told him what happened, he'd have gone and broken my abusers and kneecaps. But that's the lens through which I viewed my abuse. It was viewed not just as a man or a boy that was abused, but it was as a boy who was Irish, who was Catholic. So there was the Irish culture, the Irish American culture, and there was the lens of the Catholic Church and the mixture of those two, because there are differences, in Italian Catholic, Irish Catholic, uh, Spanish Catholic. All of them have just different culture, I guess. And so that's the lens that I viewed it through. And so when you're talking with somebody that was abused, it's not just the abuse in that they were male, but it's also the entirety of their life and what has made them who they are that affects their thinking. And for me, being Catholic, it hindered me even. That guilt, that sense of pervasive shame just drilled down on me. and I carried it through my life, and not being able to let go of it, always blaming myself and always feeling that I'm always wrong. Uh, those were some of the other things that I had to unpack on the road to healing. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, was just the lens that we look through life. Special thanks to my sister for giving me the word lens, because I just couldn't come up with exactly how to describe it, but I think lens is the perfect description. And so just remember, these posts come out Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, please click support. It would help me to continue on this message. And there's special viewing this coming Friday for my Patreon supporters. Thank you very much, and have a good